In this video, we'll take a look at an introduction to power series and infinite sums. Let's first start by looking at an infinite sum in general. So when we start adding numbers, I'll just go with a general sum of a sequence, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. If we stop at any point, we have a finite sequence. But if we continue this forever, for any number n, we'll have an infinite sequence. And this can be rewritten using sigma notation, which is the sum of. So we're going to sum up all these values of n, starting from n equals 1 to infinity. Now in this case, it should be pretty obvious that this increases without bound. It goes to infinity when we keep adding numbers. We'll add 3, and then 6, and 10, and so on. So this is said to be divergent, because it does not approach a single value. Let's look at another case of divergence. 1 minus 1 plus 1 minus 1 plus 1, and so on. So what we have is an alternating sign, negative 1 to the nth power. I would get used to writing that and be able to write that. That comes up quite often. And here we're going to look from n equals 0 to infinity, and the reason why I'm starting at n equals 0 is because negative 1 to the 0 power is positive 1. Now some people may get tricked into thinking that this is convergent because they see 1 minus 1 is 0, plus 1 is 1, minus 1 is 0, and it's bouncing back and forth. If it's bouncing back and forth, it's said to be oscillating, but it's not getting any closer to a single value. So since it's oscillating between two numbers, this is also said to be divergent. Let's dive into something a little nicer. Let's look at the value 0.7 plus 0.07 and 0.007 and so on. So what we have is we have the value of 7 being divided by 10 to the nth power, which can be rewritten in sigma notation as 7 over 10 to the nth power, because we have 7 tenths. So we do want to start at n equals 1 and go to infinity. You should recognize that this is the value 0.777 repeating, which some of you may know is also 7/9. But why is that the case? Well, here you can see that each term is reduced by a factor of 1/10. So we're multiplying by 1/10. So we have a common ratio of 1/10. Our first term, which I'll write as a sub 1, is equal to 0.7. Now, what you should have learned from geometric series is there's a formula that says s sub infinity equals the first term, a sub 1, over 1 minus r. I do like to look at this a little differently as fill in the blank. Some people get fooled by a minus 1. It's really just the first term. It could be a sub 2, it could be a sub 0, and so on. So I see it as blank over 1 minus blank, but this is only true if the absolute value of r is less than 1. Otherwise, again, it will increase without bound. It is said to be divergent. So for this particular example, we can see that our infinite sum is going to equal our first term, 0.7, over 1 minus 1/10, I'll write as 0.1. So we have 0.7 over 0.9, which can be rewritten as 7/9 as our infinite sum. So now we've seen an infinite geometric series that approaches the value of 7/9. Let's look at our building block for geometric series. This is probably the most significant formula you're going to see at the beginning of power series. If we start with the value of 1 and then have a common ratio of x, so we would have x as our next term, multiply by x and have x squared, and continue this pattern, we end up with this infinite polynomial, which can be rewritten in sigma notation as x to the n from n equals 0 to infinity. Now you'll remember our infinite sum is equal to the first term over 1 minus our ratio, so 1 minus x, provided the ratio, which is x, the absolute value of the ratio, is less than 1. In other words, this infinite sum is true if the values of x fall between -1 and 1. This actually should be pretty mind-blowing. So what we're saying is the rational function 1 over 1 minus x can be described in terms of a polynomial. 1 plus x squared plus x cubed. And with each successive term, if we were to approximate, our approximation gets better. If we were to have an infinite sum, it would be exact. Again, get used to recognizing this particular geometric series, which I will use my fill-in-the-blank approach. 1 over 1 minus blank is going to be equal to 1 plus blank squared plus blank cubed, and so on. You're going to want to use this idea down the line for several different types of series. I find it very useful when we're manipulating series. In other words, there are a lot more series that could be represented out there. For example, if we were asked to take a look at the series 1 over 1 minus x squared and come up with an infinite sum that represents this, well, you should notice that the fill in the blank, 1 over 1 minus blank, matches with the x squared. So we can simply substitute an x squared for those blanks. So it'd be 1 plus x squared squared plus x squared cubed, and so on. So we would have x squared to the n, which we can rewrite as x to the 2n from n equals, and again I always like to check this, n equals 0 would give me a first term of 1 to infinity. Now, we do have to be careful because we said that blank, the absolute value must be less than 1. So for this case, we would say the absolute value of x squared, which is simply x squared, is less than 1. And you may recall, you can check this by a graph or solving inequalities, that this means that x is between -1 and 1 yet again. So again, building from our original fill in the blank, another example might be 1 over 1 plus x. You may be a little confused at this because we need 1 over 1 minus. So we can just rewrite this as 1 over 1 minus, and that would have been -x in our fill in the blank. So here we can go ahead and write 1, and substituting into the blank would be plus -x plus -x squared plus -x cubed, and so on. And we'd end up with -x to the n. Now in this case, you may notice that this is just going to be 1 minus x plus x squared minus x cubed. So we have alternating signs. So we can say this is -1 to the n times x to the n. So in sigma notation, again we'll have -1 to the n, x to the n, from n equals 0, that will give me a positive value, to infinity. So again, there are some series that come up more often than others. 1 over 1 plus x is also fairly common, so I'd want you to recognize this series if you saw it someplace, because there's a lot of applications with this. So we've seen that we can substitute in values for 1 over 1 minus x. There are other things we can do as well. For example, if you were to look at the rational function x over 1 minus x, this can be rewritten as x times 1 over 1 minus x. Now, we can just take that x and multiply by the infinite series for 1 over 1 minus x, which you now know is 1 plus x squared, and so on, x to the n. So this would change our value to x plus x squared plus x cubed. It doesn't seem to really lose much here. So this will be x to the n plus 1, because we're increasing it by 1. And in sigma notation, if we start at n equals 0, we can write it as x to the n plus 1, but it can be written different ways. For example, if we were to start at n equals 1, we can write this as just x to the n. So there are multiple answers. So we've seen where we can take that original geometric series, we can substitute in values, we can multiply, we can add and subtract. That is an operation we can do. But much more interesting than that might be the application of derivatives. So let's take a look at 1 over 1 minus x. And again, I will keep writing this out. It's a good practice. It gets you very comfortable with it. And from here, let's see what happens when we differentiate both sides. It should still be equal. Let's see what we come up with. So many of you may want to remember to rewrite the 1 over 1 minus x as 1 minus x to the negative 1. So this would be the power rule and the chain rule. So when we take our derivative, d dx, we end up with negative 1 times 1 minus x to the negative 2 times that negative 1 again. So that'll be simply equal to 1 minus x to the negative 2, or 1 over 1 minus x squared. Now that would be the left-hand side. So our left-hand side is quite simply 1 over 1 minus x, and that's the quantity squared. So that came from here, left-hand side. Now we'll do what's called term-by-term integration of the right-hand side. So when looking at this, the derivative of 1 is 0. The derivative of x is 1. Of x squared is 2x. Let's say we had x cubed. That would be 3x squared, because I want to follow this pattern. And so on. And that would leave me with n times x to the n minus 1, which again, in sigma notation, is going to be the sum of n x to the n minus 1 from n equals, let's see, if we start with 0, we have 0 minus 1. If I start with 1, I will get my first term. So I'd rather start with 1. That would make more sense. And again, we do have to look at the idea of for what values of x is this true. So since we are manipulating the 1 over 1 minus x and we're taking the derivative, just like you would look at a derivative graph, if we were looking at the domain negative 1 to 1, we'll still look at negative 1 to 1. And later on, we're going to have to take a closer look at what's called examining the endpoints. Do we or don't we include the negative 1 and 1? For now, we're looking at what's called the open interval of convergence. So we will not look to include them at all. This is our open interval of convergence. So we've looked at the derivative of 1 over 1 minus x. So you guessed it. Let's look at integration. So we have 1 over 1 minus x equals 1 plus x squared plus x cubed, and so on, to x to the nth power. So now if we're going to look at integration, we will have to remember how to integrate 1 over 1 minus x. And in doing so, I hope you recognize that that is actually ln, absolute value of 1 minus x. But again, we do have the chain rule to make up for that negative, so we have to throw a negative in front there. Then on the right-hand side, if we do term-by-term integration, integrating the 1 is just x. Integrating x is x squared divided by 2, or 1/2 x squared. Integrating x squared, again, power higher, x cubed divided by 3, or multiplied by 1 over 3. And we begin to see our pattern, or our general power rule for integration. We have 1 over n, x to the n. And in sigma notation, very similar, we have 1 over n, x to the n, and that would be from n equals 1 to produce our first term to infinity. Now some of you may be asking, hey, well, what happened to the plus c? Well, what we can do to solve for that plus c is substitute in a known value. So I'll just show you once here. At x equals 1, we know we have negative ln of 1 minus, well, let's say 0, because now we have negative ln of 1, which is equal to 0. And if we substitute in the right-hand side, we're going to have a bunch of zeros plus c. So c would be equal to 0 in this case. And it usually works out very nicely each time. It's what you expect, but you can always substitute in a known value. So I chose x equals 0 because we have what's called it being centered at 0 because it's from -1 to 1. And also when we substitute in 0, we have a known value for ln. Let's take a look at one of the series that we manipulated. So this will be a double move. So if we take a look at 1 over 1 minus x, and then how we looked at 1 over 1 plus x, we substituted in the negative x value. And when we did that, we ended up with 1 minus x plus x squared minus x cubed, and so on. And we had -1 to the n, x to the n. So after a substitution, we can still do another integration. So if we take this and integrate this value, we do end up with ln absolute value of 1 plus x, no chain rule to worry about here, and we'll have that equal to x minus 1/2 x plus 1/3 x cubed, and so on, minus 1/4. We'll do another one, a fourth. And that alternating term stays there, and then we have 1 over x to the n. And again, we have a plus c, and if we plug in 0 for x, that c value will be 0. So this will simply be equal to the sum of -1 to the n times 1 over n x to the n. And yeah, we can condense that, so we'll do that in a moment. And this would be from n equals 1 to be able to produce that first term. But now notice, when I plug in 1, I'm going to have -1 to the n, which is a negative term. So we adjust that by saying n plus 1. So that's something we'll always go back and check. So our final answer here in sigma notation, to be a little neater, would be n equals 1 to infinity, -1 to the n plus 1 over n times x to the n. So again, what we've just done that's quite remarkable is we've taken the logarithmic function and we've written it as a power series or an infinite polynomial. So just to note, that phrase power series gets thrown out quite often. So let's define what a power series is before we leave off. A power series is a series that can be written in the following form. It could be from n equals 0, it could be from n equals 1, but I'll start at 0. And what we'll have is some value, which I'll say c sub n for a coefficient, times x to the n. So that's why it's called a power series. This would be a power series centered at 0. And we can have shifts. It doesn't always have to be centered at 0. We do like when it's centered at x equals 0. Later on, you'll see when we're looking at what's called Taylor polynomials in Maclaurin series, that when they're centered at 0, we refer to them as Maclaurin series. So this can also be rewritten as n equals 0 to infinity. And if we were to center this at some value, say a, if you remember shifts, that's just substituting x minus a to the n. So this is also a power series, but it's centered at x equals a. Now again, don't let power series scare you. All it is a polynomial. So when you write that out, you might have some term blank plus some term times x plus some term times x squared, and so on. And this continues. So this is a power series, and we can talk about different degrees of the power series, the third degree power series to approximate, meaning we'd stop at the third degree, and so on. So that's it for this video. Take some time to take a look at our next video. We'll go into a little more detail about Taylor series, Maclaurin series, and some other applications.